All right, here we are. Welcome to another Cosmic Creator Coven Conversation. This is Carroll-Desselle, and we're talking about transcending cycles through transformation of consciousness, in particular play. And I met Carroll-Desselle at a yoga studio when he came up to me after I was practicing, and he had some beautiful lavender chocolate all over his face. And he shared it with me and we formed a friendship. So Eric, is there anything else you want to add to that?
I'm sorry I don't have chocolate on my beard again, but maybe next time we can do that.
Yeah.
Well, I can say that I had seen you working with your yoga practice, and I knew that I wanted to learn how to integrate that into my life and work with that because I have a intrinsic sense of how important yoga is for transformation. And I've learned over time the power of different kinds of yoga. So I love both yin yoga, restorative yoga, and the different kinds of yang yogas that they all give us something that assists us in moving our consciousness forward to a better place. And the importance of the body for the mind and the heart transformation is extremely important too. I had a craniosacral massage this Friday, and in that afterwards, the massage therapist said I she could feel something in my heart, how it lightened up and things had changed. And I can feel some of that change in my life as relate to people. And so it leads to more of a peacefulness and a tranquility, and then an ability to deal with things when they're not quite as peaceful and we have a traditional or typical human challenges as we go forward. So I'm very glad that I met you and we've done a lot of yoga together. Thank you.
I think one of the things that also really bonds our friendship and our connection is playfulness. And when I first met you, I didn't understand. I was in a certain state of being that I didn't understand that you were playing with me in like a very sweet, like, childlike wonder kind of way. Right. And I remember one time we were doing Isanomi in the parking lot, and we were like throwing this imaginary ball to each other. Do you remember that? And like catching it. And what you at the time now I recognize what you were doing was using play to elevate consciousness, because it's an immediate way to create joy in a level of consciousness. And so just the way that you started to interact with me and to help me to remember, like, to dream play, to access that child who has joy, who's in the present moment, and always kind of being able to move in that way. And then another thing I've learned about from you, what I'm grateful for, is Isanomi, and how to incorporate that into my own yoga practice within the discipline and the structure of the yoga practice. Wow. It helped me to know how to surrender and move and to trust in my own inner intuition in my tissues, and to like even within the discipline of the practice, how does the body want to move? How does it want to shape with my own intuition? Do you want to explain what Isanomi is?
I will.
It's an Eric convention.
Right. Well, you threw it in without explaining it, so I thought I would. But I wanted to comment too that you were rather serious when I first met you, for many reasons that we know about because of where your life space was at that time. And I think I went into an automatic sense of playfulness to meet you. And like you said, the joyfulness is really important, because we can be very, very serious. And there is a seriousness to this, but there's a seriousness that can stop us from moving forward. the playfulness, the childlike playfulness, I believe is the essence of a heart transformation that we want to create, and we're going to move forward both to relate better to ourselves and to others. The isonomi is a Japanese word, as I understand it, which means center of the wheel. And I actually remember getting the word from my daughter when she may have been a teenager. She is Japanese American and had gone to study many Japanese things and shared that with me. In isonomi, I first started working with it in the 1970s for my own sake to maintain my health and my own vigor in life. And it's worked really well. I'm really pleased with it. It means center of the wheel. And one of the first places I started was from a healing modality called Feldenkrais. And Feldenkrais is a man who healed himself of a broken leg. At the time that it hurt his leg, they were going to have surgery and he would have lost his leg, but he healed himself. And one of his main principles is to stay in alignment with gravity. And that's part of what this is about, staying in that flow of feeling the gravity, which is the pull of the planet, which is the energy we need to combine with and move with as physical beings on the planet. His other principle that I've integrated, you kind of alluded to it, was that we are here to surrender from our minds or our egos to our bodies. And our bodies, the nervous system of the body is highly aware of where we need to go, what we need to do. And so if I follow that, I live a best life. And the mind, as I define it, and it's a biological truth that the mind is 3% of the nervous system. So the body, which is the total nervous system, the 100% is much older than just the human mind. And the human mind, the ego itself, as we know through yoga practices and others, that we can get off the path, off our path of evolution, of where I feel the universe wants us to move. And so I want to follow the body that was given to me by the Creator in my mother's womb and allowed me to come out into this world so that I make friends with it, as well as with all of my brain, and heal some of the things that my ego had to learn to survive some of the struggle on the physical plane. So there are beliefs that I have developed, we have all developed over time to survive whatever environment we grew up in. And very few people have a perfect environment. So our adaptation is not as perfect as it could be. And when I say perfect, I also like to go back to my idea of perfection is that we're headed in the right direction. I do not see perfection as a destination. And I do see it as a destination because I'm also a Taoist and I try not to polarize with the duality of the planet. But the destination of this action is a path of getting back in balance, getting back in the right direction continuously. And when I say right direction, it's a direction of aligning with the universal intentions, universal laws. And you and I have talked about from the Indian traditions again of yoga about Atman, which is the individual self, and Brahman, which would be the universal self. My individual self in this physical form at a certain point can learn how to reconnect with my universal self that is present in my body, but from which we get distracted when we come into this plane. And since much of this plane is materialistic, we need to have a good balance between our material selves, our spiritual selves, our emotional selves, our heart selves, and our soul selves. So the isonomy for me is a practice of getting back into that balance so that I'm in alignment with the wonders of this universe we live in. And I feel like I've talked enough for now. Let's keep a dialogue going.
Oh, well, I liked it. What you were talking about, like the mind being only like 3% and the rest embodiment, at least in some of like the belief work that I've been doing, I notice I'll be saying or affirming certain things for myself. And it can take, I mean, I'm not affirming that it takes time, but to actually embody and feel it in my body is a completely different sensation itself.
Right.
And so through the movement of the body, through the dream play, through the isonomy, I feel like it's a hack to be able to get into that level or place of joy and
Right.
to be able to feel it in the body. Whereas, yes, it's like supporting the thoughts with it as well, but that embodiment, which is, you and I both talk about koshas or sheaths. I think you have a different model than I do, but
I do.
the bliss body, then it's the causal or the mental body, the emotional body, the pranayama body, the breath body, and then most condensed is the physical body itself. So
Right.
if you're an embodiment of it, it's matter, its most condensed form. So if you have the belief like I'm joyful, which is starting in the causal field, and then maybe you feel it emotionally, and then eventually if you're feeling it within your being, then it's a complete part of you itself. And a couple of weeks ago we were talking about like Brahman and Atman and like this illusion of like separateness itself. And I like what you said about perfection as a destination, but not a destination. And one of the things I've been, playing with is I'm perfectly enough. I'm perfectly enough. And it kind of has that like, yes, I'm
Right.
perfect as I am, but I'm enough as I am too. And moving towards
Mm-hmm.
just this expansion all the time, continuously expanding, which is,
Right.
if we live in a universe that's continuously expanding, it's actually, like you said, Brahman's the universal self. So the universal self, we live in an ever expanding universe. So the universal self is ever expanding. So that idea of perfection is actually just limitless, completely expanding and ascending. Yeah, that's my little
Go ahead. Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But
In a way, I see the perfection, the joy, the expanding as a way of life that we enter into. And you were mentioning, well, the joy, the expansion, and that because we are in the physical plane, a very dense plane, and as we're aware of in the external, particularly the political world, some of the other parts of the racial strife that's going on these days, there's a density that can make us sad and disheartened, that our fellow human beings can sometimes be harmful to one another, where we're not aware of our wonders of our brotherhood, sisterhood, of connection. This connection can be felt more and more strongly. And that connection, I feel, is part of what brings the peace. I'm going to go back to when you talk about dream play, because I love that. I believe you came up with that word at one point. And I was mentioning before we started talking here that I was in a dream play kind of state this evening and had a sense of what life can be like, the healing we can experience, the kind of life we can live when we allow the integration of the Atman with the Brahman, and the love and caring we can have for one another in all relationships at all levels. Back to you.
well, it comes back again to that concept of compassion, where you're saying focusing on all this external stuff like that's going on right now. I genuinely believe if each person turned within themselves and started to, focus inward on who they want to be, their love, their joy, and aligning with that, that would shift and dissolve.
Well,
So
and when you say this, let me jump in.
yeah, go ahead.
We're best when we jump in on each other, I think.
Yeah.
It's the compassion itself, different than the unhealthy narcissistic self. So talk about a healthy narcissism that is a compassionate narcissism, that's a compassion for ourselves, that leads then to compassion for others. And I guess since we're living in a Christian oriented country, that we need to realize Christ said the same thing, that you can only love your neighbor in as much as you love yourself. And he, in the Bible, they do mention we are children of God. We are made in the image of God. So it seems that we would love ourselves, be a reflection of the Godhead, of God, of the universe. So the words we use, I hope, don't get in the way of the goal we have here of a universal brotherhood, sisterhood of all beings working together. And we've talked that I lived fairly tribally for a good while in a very healthy kind of tribal level where there was a mutual respect. There was this caring, this loving, and this sharing from one to another with in the last 15 years of my being in tribe, there was no strife, not because there wouldn't be differences or there wouldn't be conversations and planning and changing. So we're still human beings with our own ideas, our own focus, and yet we want to work with the other without harming. And you said a number of things that I do want to go back to eventually over time, maybe in future conversations as we kind of look at this. I think we'll keep on talking to one another for a while, if I can tell where I'll pass. But there's a uniqueness here that came up at one point in my mind about how we are each unique. And I have what I have to bring, you have what you have to bring. But any person who listens to this, any person who wants a dialogue with us, they have a unique gift to bring into this universe. And I often see us as like a multifaceted crystal, and each one of us being one facet of this universal crystal, and that the universe, the divine, the Godhead can be seen in a uniqueness through each person. If we can surrender to loving them and caring for them, and they can be a mutual surrender in this love, in this respect, in particular, in this caring for one another as we move forward to joy, to play together. So I guess I'm going to go to that. Play might be my dream, and you may call it dream play, and I'm calling it the play that brings me to a dream that I have, and I believe we all have in our souls. I think we deeply long for this happiness, for this joy to be shared with one another. And I feel sad often because we run into many dark experiences, and many of us do, dark times, and we can lose that faith or that belief that we are meant to have the joy. Christ promised it. Our religions, to some degree, expand this or show us this. One of my unique experiences for me was a couple of decades ago. I ran across the presentation on the internet. So it's been within, what's that, 90? When did the internet come on board? I can't remember.
I want to say 94-ish.
Okay. So we've been around a while. I ran into it then, and can't remember his name, but the yogi who had come over from India to present at the World Fair in New York in the 1920s mentioned that he felt that the yoga was the integration of all universal beliefs from all religions to be held together. And he got an intense standing ovation for sharing that. And I know when I read that, my heart just leaped for joy. I felt the truth of it, and it was different than a mind truth. So my mind can have it, the 3% of me has it, but when my body has it, all of me has it. I can feel it, which means I can live it. And then that living it in my body and mind more and more as I integrate them allows me to then bring that, share that with others. And part of what I like to do in my work is to help people to get this union with themselves, maybe call it dream play with themselves as well as with others. Why not be childlike and playful?
One of the things that I like to do in terms of teaching is when I'm teaching, I'm using my words. And while I want them to be descriptive and instructive, I actually don't, I mean, I do care, but I don't care if they understand it all on a conscious level. I've
Right,
already decided that I'm speaking to the unconscious parts of them and the
right,
parts that may be slumbering. And even if they don't grasp it today, something in there is getting flooded into
mhm,
the parts of them that are maybe asleep to who they actually
mhm,
are. And for me, I look at Christ as a guru and Yogananda as a guru and Buddha as a
right,
guru and Krishna as all these same gurus, avatars, enlightened beings who are just expressing the same kind of truths, but in, different vocabulary.
right,
And that we're all here, we are all source energy itself. Source divided itself into light and into love, and we're
mhm,
here to really access that. And every, like you said, Christ was like, love thy neighbor as they love thyself. So and there's another quote too that I've always like, if there's no enemy within, there's no enemy without. And so
mhm,
if you can really dig into having that compassion for yourself and love for
right,
yourself, then that gets translated,
mm,
outward. So the more that I have genuinely loved and accepted myself and been compassionate towards myself and stopped such
right.
the strife inside, it is so much easier for me to hold
And
that for people.
as you make peace with yourself is when you begin to experience joy.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
a couple of things I was going to say, Christ also said, let the little children come to me, if such is the kingdom of heaven. And I
Hmm.
think I read into that, he said, when we are childlike, which doesn't mean we have to lose being adult, but the childlikeness helps the adult have the happiness and joy.
Hmm.
Because as we become the adult, of course, we become more responsible. Uh, we have maybe our own children to we need to remember our own childlikeness so we can play with our children, can play with one another. So the dream play is a divine dream, I believe.
Hmm.
And you've mentioned the word guru, and I like to use the word teacher because sometimes people put guru on a pedestal as above. I
Hmm.
believe the true guru is more of a teacher and a student and will be in an egalitarian relationship with you rather than dominating. Yeah.
A true guru should always lead you back to yourself,
Yes.
to the power inside yourself. That's how I always have felt it as well. Like I tell my students, chase the growth, don't chase the guru. And
Yes.
if my students grow beyond me, then that's great. I'm happy. I've done
Right.
my work.
Right.
And because if I lead them, I've even within spiritual communities, there is a tendency to put power in the guru,
Right.
the teacher, the healer, the yoga type, whatever it is, instead of like always coming back to the power inside of ourselves. So that's something I recognized like early on, in terms of my yoga practice. There was a tendency at first to put a lot of power. Well, this teacher said this, I have to do it like this, instead of
Right.
listening to like my own deeper inner knowing. And
Yes.
sometimes even with gurus, teachers, healers, they have their own set of limiting beliefs, and we can take that on.
Right.
And so it's really about transcending all of that and all of that and all of that.
Hmm.
And so when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So if you transcend, if you move beyond certain teachers, it's okay. Like that's okay.
And what I like when you quote move beyond me, then you become my guru and I learn from you. So I like to take namaste and kind of translate that the guru in me
Mhm,
honors the guru in you.
mhm, mhm,
And
mhm.
as we mutually honor the master, teacher, guru in each of us, um, to me, my heart lights up. I can feel it behind my eyes that I can see more of the beauty of the world
Mhm,
and
mhm.
the beauty in others. The joy that we want to share can come forth. And it takes a kind of a gentle playfulness, I believe. So as we're talking, I believe I'm understanding better the dream play kind of thing, because it's almost a dream to be able to play this way, I believe. There's a lightness, there's a joyfulness. And I guess I also have to say there will be conflict at times as part of the learning, as part of what I call the subconscious begins to say, okay, I'm willing to live in this other way. Because while we met more playfully, we also had our times of conflict where we, and I felt there was a bit of that when I could see you giving power to the gurus around you and maybe not holding quite as much power within you. And I really love just hearing you say that you know that you have that power in you. And I believe I heard a really firm intention to not give that power to any other guru again. And I want to thank you for sharing that right now. It, again, opened up my heart a bit more to hear and understand and see that. The beauty of this sharing at a heartfelt heart level is beyond words. And I think that's another thing, like you said, you use your words, understanding that it's up to the other to apply it. Because I do use the terms in my own way. And we have conscious, of course, is pretty commonly understood, but subconscious, unconscious, and I like to talk about superconscious, which would be Brahman, universal self, whatever word, God visiting me. Because again, Christ said that when he left to go back to his home, I will send the Holy Spirit to dwell in your hearts, to comfort and to guide you. And I do believe my dream play is I want the Spirit that dwells in my heart to comfort and guide me. And
sorry, I understand how I like to interpret the Holy Spirit is
right,
your pure identity, the pure I-ness.
right.
That's how I like I will send your pure, like the pure I-ness being like that you are, you know, God, goddess consciousness, you are the universe itself, like you are not separate from it, that oneness.
Right.
I will send the oneness to dwell
Right.
within you. Like at least
Yeah.
that's how I like to interpret it.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I say the Spirit rather than Holy Spirit,
Yeah. Okay.
because Holy Spirit, again, I was a monk in the Catholic Church. I still believe that I kind of consider myself sometimes a Taoist Christian, and I don't like labels, so it changes from time to time. But my roots are in the Christian Bible because that's what I first learned. But the monks that I studied with encourage examining other religions, other teachings. So when I say the Spirit, I do mean the universal Spirit. And at a certain point, I'll have to say, I don't know what I mean when I say that word, because I believe that is the infinite, that is the Brahman, which is beyond what me in mind as Atman can understand. So I can talk like I understand a lot of things, and I do. But in the end, I know I don't fully, and I'll go back to that term. I believe the Spirit in me, my heart understands. It's not just my mind where we can get into ego debates. It is my heart and soul where I want to hear your wisdom and share the wisdom I like to believe I have. And I can believe I have wisdom because you acknowledge the wisdom in me. And we mutually then support one another in growth. And again, I go back believing that again would be dream play, because I'm still understanding that word. And I imagine we can explore it forever, or as long as we live in these forms, to deepen our understanding of it. Because I think we have a mutual connection through that particular word somehow. Do you remember who came up with that first, by any chance?
I think I might have said it because I was inspired by a Alan Watts. There's an Alan Watts like sayings and then music, and he was talking about play on demand. How if you ask like a child to play on demand, it won't kind of like do it. It's like it's a more spontaneous and organic thing.
Right. Right.
So a lot of the things that, when I first met you, I feel like I met you and then I went into a different life phase.
Right.
And I felt like I had just supernovaed, just like whoosh, like
You
just
did.
stardust. And I was like
Right.
shattered and things were kind of reforming and coming back
Right.
in.
Right.
And sometimes we would disagree on things. There would be like a little,
Occasionally, yes.
collision in the stardust going, like flare
Right.
up in stardust going on. But
Right.
I think that's where it came from. And I want to go back to what you're saying about namaste, because it's
Yeah.
like you said, the guru. But if I just thought about it, just came to me, the light and love, and the like honors the light and love within me,
Yes.
honors the light and love within you. But if
Right.
I understand source to be light and love, that it originally
Yes.
divided itself in light and love. So namaste, the source within me honors the source within you. Like God within me honors the God within you. The guru within me honors the guru within you. And just like getting back to that place of understanding.
Right.
But it is, at least, I mean, it could happen instantly, but it was an awakening process for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like you witnessed it, or sometimes like we'd pop out of each other's reality a little bit and then come back in. I think it was so funny last May.
Yes.
We like disappeared from each other's physical reality for a couple months, even though you'd been a really constant steady in my reality when everything happened with the great pause.
Right.
And one day I was riding my Vespa, and I was like, I usually went to this one park to go practice and hang out and do yoga. And I was like, I'm gonna keep driving. For some reason, I need to keep driving. And I pulled up behind this car, and it was your car. I was like, I'm just gonna park here. And then I got out and I had my helmet on and I looked in the window and I was like, Eric, and you just like popped back into my physical reality, and then we connected, and we've both been integrating some really kind of deep processing and deep inner knowings within ourselves.
And I remember looking in my rearview mirror and said, who's that person in that red scooter coming up behind me? They're going to run into me. And then you popped into. I'm thinking we both may have supernovaed for a while. And I think I needed to disappear so that you could become that unique star being that you were meant to be. And if I was too close to that, putting my ideas in the way of your growth, that was not best relationship. So I missed you during that time on the 3D plane. And at the same time, I didn't miss you because I could feel our connection on the 4D and the 5D, that it was always there. And we may have to explain the 1D, the first dimension, the fifth dimension kind of things eventually, if not today, because we're going to be covering a lot of territory.
I'm sure we actually have also different explanations for it, but I do remember the one time.
That's the beauty of it, though. Wait. The beauty is we have different explanations. Give me yours. Come on, run with it.
Well, but I do remember one time when you were like, you said something like, Jordan, that's kind of 4D. And I was like, oh, like at the time I was like,
I mean, I'm not totally 5D. What's the matter with you?
What? But I'm like so 5D. It's like, I just remember I was like, oh. And to other people that would mean like nothing, but it was really funny. And I just like, I just think it's like adorable. Okay, so how I understand my interpretation. Some people have an 8-dimension model. I have a 27-dimension model.
I can't that far. I gotta 5 is more than I can have.
Okay. So source divided it itself into light and love, and each dimension contains like light and love, light being the consciousness, and love being like the physical matter that makes up each dimension.
Wow.
The first dimension is the primal, is like the body, like the primal body. The second dimension is the subconscious, which is the programming, the script that runs the reality around you. Most people don't realize that they're creating everything in their reality through their thoughts and their assumptions. Everything. The weather.
And if I can jump in a moment,
you know that
I both agree with you and disagree with you, of course. And well, I won't have to mention, but what you talked about, the way you just described subconscious, very first statement, we're in full agreement. After that, we have differences. And again, the thing I call dialogue is where we learn in compassionate dialogue, we can learn from the differences. So when you have a different meaning for the same word, I'm saying, wow, here I get to learn some more. And we also can have different words for the same meaning, but we'll keep playing with that. Go. I want to keep listening because you're really on a roll. You were still at 1D or 2D? I can't remember
We
where
went
you
to 2D, which is the subconscious. It's the
Okay.
programming that's
Right.
running out your reality. And
Right.
I probably spent the past year
Right.
in reprogram. Well, people were like, what are you doing during this whole great pause? I'm like, well, reprogramming my subconscious. Like, what are you
Right.
guys doing? Duh.
And
You
you would
don't
have
have
said,
TV. What do you do at night?
well, you would have
Reprogram my
said, you would
subconscious.
also say, what do you mean pause? I'm reprogramming my subconscious, which I'm always in. But keep going. Let's go.
So then the 3D is
Right.
almost like, you have this program running and it's the printout of the program. So it's
Right.
the external world around you. It's how everything's showing up, and everything showing up is actually a shadow. It's your past thoughts showing up. So today we've already actually had this conversation 4D, and now it's materializing 3D.
Okay.
4D is the level of consciousness. So it's the observation of our thoughts. It's the witness of our thoughts. We are the one actually creating our thoughts. Our thoughts aren't just miscellaneous rogue things that are happening to us. And once you really understand that, then you can change and shift so many things.
Right.
And 5D is, I like to understand it as like love and the super conscious. It's the origination of our desires. It's the awareness that is, orchestrating things in our life as well. So the 5D, the higher self, and the super conscious and the subconscious are interacting. So higher self says, we want these things, we have these desires, which they are given to you in order for you to look towards them, to transform your consciousness. So if I desire some kind of thing in my life, what it's actually causing me to do is to transform my consciousness to be able to receive that thing. And then it's intersecting with the subconscious, and it's saying, if you want this thing, you have to shift these beliefs. You have to take these bugs out of the program. You have to filter out this stuff. And so that is deep internal expansion, or expanding yourself. And so that's how I understand it. And then above that, it's like soul pods and super conscious until you get all the way to source, which is 27D. But you can tell me your model, because some people just have like a 5D model, an 8D model, 2D.
Can I? Well, part of it, I said I'm simple and keep it to 5, but I have at least 5 5s most probably to go with. So I could be out there at 27 pretty soon too, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I love this. Thank you. Yeah, I love what you just explained. I love the beauty of it. I do not want to rain on that parade in any way, shape, or form, because, well, no, that ties into when I was talking before about conscious, subconscious, unconscious, superconscious, and it's how about dream dance? We have dream play. And maybe we can call our compassionate dialogue process dream dance, because I like dancing with you around these topics and these subjects. And I think it's very important that I'm going to put it this way. My ego kind of said, I don't have to be right. My heart says, I'm never wrong. Because I feel when I call myself wrong, it's like a judgment, and it's very often seen as shaming or a moral judgment. So I do not like to take I am and add it to wrong. I don't mind saying I am not right.
But I always think you're always right, because in your reality, you get
Yes.
to decide the meaning to everything.
Oh, okay.
And because like you said, you saw us as this like the prismatic sides of this crystal.
Yes.
Each side of that crystal, like the way you create is unique to you, and the way I
Yep.
create is unique to me.
Right.
And we can use each guru to get ideas of maybe how to refine our creation process. But
Yeah.
you are always right. You're always right.
I will go with I'm never wrong. We can disagree.
Well, yeah, okay, you're never wrong. But even when you think you're wrong, you're right.
Um,
Because it's like you get to assign the meaning to everything.
Well, I'm going to go back to what you were saying. We have our worlds that we
Yeah.
live in.
Mhm.
And I guess we could say mental, physical, emotional, the koshas we live in. And I feel that when you share your world and from your world, I want to respect, honor, and pick up the richness from it. And I think it might be dull and boring if we always agreed. So,
Oh, you and I will probably never always agree, but you're never wrong, and I'm never wrong.
well, and I'd like to agree to disagree in the richest sense of that word.
Yeah.
Some people, what do they say? They agree to disagree. They say it, but in different modality, I believe. Because I feel that at this point, our disagreements are enriching. There was that static point where I think we were maybe both supernovaing, and the world that's emerged from your supernova and the world of my supernova have they integrate, they share, and then we go back. So there's this, again, there's that beautiful dance between the stars, between the worlds of who we are. And I think I wish this for all people to be able to have that. I mean, especially if we go mates, parents and children, people of different colors, different countries. If we could get into this dream play, this dream dance of we can enrich each other. There's no poverty here. There's no poorness. You're rich as a being because you also are Brahman. And at this point, I'm going beyond words, so I'm going to be quiet and just enjoy.
The Tao.
The Tao has spoken. The Tao that cannot be spoken has spoken.
Yeah.
And I know we agreed to stay within an hour. Where we often run out of conversation.
We still have a little bit of time, but I think one of the things that when we both met one another, we were both experiencing similar things, but in different ways.
Yes.
And it was like a loss of our power. And I remember that night that when we first had like that private session together, and you recognized some power in me that I didn't know.
Oh, really?
And I recognized power in you that you maybe already knew was there, but were not able to access at that moment. Do you remember when we did the energy exchange?
Oh, okay. Yes.
And working, and so energetically, I think you helped me to like remember my own power and to retrieve it. And then on a physical level, because you approached me more as like as the teacher, to remember like your physical power and how to root into that power itself. But you were recognizing things in myself that I had felt that were always there, even when I was younger. But I had been coming through these lineages, being surrounded by people that had disempowered me.
Yes.
And you were experiencing kind of some different things, but similar. And so we were both, I feel like we were both called into each other to help each other gain that empowerment again. And that was really like valuable to me. And at the same time when we met, like we were both supernovaing. So the mystical experiences at that time were off the chart for me. Like I was completely floating, and I was like a live wire. Like my
you were.
like my power was just like
Oh,
fire, just like spritzing
yeah, yeah.
out a little bit and like flailing around. I didn't have a conduit
Right,
for it. And now I
right,
feel like I've cleansed out a lot of my mind, cleansed out a lot
right,
of my beliefs,
right.
reestablished myself in my body. So I have a better conduit for that
Yeah.
power, where before it was just like lightning sparks, just like
Well,
going all over the place.
I
And it
love
was
it.
powerful, but it was not controlled. Like I couldn't
Right,
control it. And
right.
so sometimes we would hit these like little
Oh,
solar
yeah.
flares with each other because
Yeah.
we were both in this space of
Hmm.
having all that power, and it
Right,
wasn't flowing in like a conduit yet.
right. Well, I love your metaphor there. I was thinking about, like if a power line breaks and it's flapping around, because that a Monday night when you were doing your yin class, and I was your student, you were definitely doing that. And I was saying, wow, look at this lady go. And I think one of the differences, I was lucky enough to have a more stable, affirming, respectful environment until I was like 30 or so.
Mhm.
And I still can't believe that you're now over 30, correct?
Maybe.
Congratulations. We met a long time. But you'd grown up in that other environment that had not supported you in really accessing your power. And that
Mhm.
was there a particular power you felt I supported when we first met, or it's just I could help you sense that you do have power, and that was okay.
A lot of different ways. Like
Yeah,
growing up in such a conservative or constricted, I want to call it constricted
yeah,
religion, where as a female, the healing powers were really contained within the males.
right,
Like that was what it was saying. And in my heart,
right,
I always felt like I was meant to be a healer. And
right.
that's why I left
Well,
initially.
but
But
I have to, let me, because I felt a great sadness. Because
mhm,
when you're talking about it, I felt that there was a suppression of the feminine, of the female, and that suppresses a richness that the planet really needs. So I'm celebrating you coming into that deep feminine and also affirming your masculine, which we can share
mhm,
about
yeah,
another time. But yeah, there's been such a beautiful growth. Yeah, it's really nice. Um,
well, one of the things, like, because I felt that was energetically, I want to call it like transmuting the energy in the
you
room.
were, you
I was
were. Oh boy, were
intuitively
you? Right.
doing it,
Yeah. Right.
but I was like still doubting that.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes, like sometimes when a light bulb has like kind of flickered or whatever, I'll
Yeah.
like turn my chin up and I'll blow at it, and then it will
Right.
like turn back on. Or when I'm
Right.
in the room teaching, I'll, if there's a noise going on, I'll like turn my hand up and just be like
Right.
stop, it shuts off. If a
Right.
student's like kind of being disruptful in the room,
Right.
and I was doing this intuitively, disruptful
Yeah.
in the room, like I'll just be like, they're silence, they're quiet, they close their
Yes.
eyes, and it would
Yes.
happen. And I just snapped. So we just
That and that's 4D. That's what I call 4D. My
yeah.
4D. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
you actually, I
Hmm.
was doing it. I didn't know how to, like the live wire, I was doing it, but I didn't know how to channel it and use it and actually be
Right.
rooted in that power. And
Right.
now I can, command things with my
Right.
mind. Like
Right.
when a witch is totally empowered in herself, she doesn't need to do spell work. I like doing spell work because it's fun and I embody
Yeah,
it,
you do. You love it.
but
Right.
just the command of the mind
Right.
that can instantaneously
Mhm.
materialize these things. And
Well, let me.
I have
Can I?
like 10 spell books here, and I've been
Right.
testing and playing with this for months now too, and I'm
Right.
getting better and better and better and better at it. But
Right.
you helped me to know that it wasn't just a fluke, that I
Correct.
was actually commanding these things, because
Right.
sometimes it would happen and be like, okay, that was like kind of a coincidence
Right.
thing, but you were like, no, like this is you. You're
Yeah.
commanding this energy.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Um, and I'm staying aware of timing for us because
Yeah.
usually.
We have like 5 more minutes. I know we could talk for like 2 to 3 hours, but that will be,
Another time.
we'll have more talking too.
Well,
Like,
well, I'd like to come back to some of what you said there, because I'm appreciating the beauty of the changes in integration. And I had a question. I was thinking, set it for an agenda for next time when we talk like this about that manifestation in your power. I can't remember the exact question, but I'll look at this and see what I was thinking while we're talking, because I'm trying to stay present with you the whole time, which means I'm avoiding thinking my thoughts as you're speaking. So I want to honor you from there. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
As I feel you do too.
I think it was beautiful to witness you physically transform these past couple of years, and how you came to the advanced gauche class.
Right.
And I would love witnessing, like, it was a beautiful experience to witnessing you, you white wizard Ericify the discipline into a way that was authentic to the way that your matter or your thoughts were materialized in your body, and just moving it through that. And so coming in and, you know, being my yin student at first, and then watching you embrace this very like yang type of practice, it was really powerful as well, kind of getting into that more what we could call like divine masculine. And it was also like me kind of getting into divine masculine energy as well too. Moving from this inverted feminine to divine feminine, and then also like inverted masculine to divine masculine. I don't like to use the word toxic, because I don't think like,
I'm with you.
Yeah, just inverted.
And I wanted to say too is I consider that you as the teacher allowed me to use this Sonomi with the gauche very yang practice, and I'm still working with it. I'm still working with the postures and what I need to do in my body to get to there and embrace that, because it's super enriching. It is really nice to feel welcome back in my body, I guess.
Well, it was really good for me as a teacher too, because teaching the gauche lineage, it's very structured and disciplined, and there's like the way you do things. And it took like a leap of faith for me to be like, okay, I'm just gonna, I know his heart is here and the discipline's here, and I'm gonna allow it to be, and to move from that like need to almost like control, and instead of just knowing that you're receiving the yoga, but doing it in a way that is very authentic to yourself. And I mean, from like for all students, I probably wouldn't, I think it depends on the student's intention. If you can feel that like discipline inside themselves and that discernment inside themselves, then and it is a state of like, it was because we had a lot of trust in with each other. Like it was just residing in a state of trust and the beauty of being in that experience. And
I think I kind of have a structure that seems like almost no discipline, where gauche is extremely structured. And I think many of us need that strong structure to get, because I watched the other students and they were getting a lot out of it. They loved it. It just wasn't the structure that worked best for me. And again, you gave me the freedom to allow my less structured application of your very structured discipline. Again, we were in a dream play, and it's a nice place to be.
Well, like I said, I feel like it's that trust, that knowing that my students in the room are receiving the yoga on different levels, even just being energetically in the space, even just words, et cetera, et cetera. It's not the asanas themselves as like the output of it. It's the consciousness that's coming through.
Well, I had a little voice that we need to be able to receive like that until we can give. And the giving will be the unique giving of each Atman, each singular consciousness. Yes. And
Well,
I'm gonna
we could probably keep talking for another like do you have any closing remarks, White Wizard?
Well, I was just saying, I feel the need to put on the brakes for a change as opposed to keep it running forever. But hopefully there'll be others that see this, enjoy this, and it'll awaken their spirits and their hearts and their souls. And I'm hoping others join us on our journey.
Yeah. I love you so much.
I love
And
you too, ma'am. Namaste.
we're namaste. We are limitless. So
Yes, we are.
legit. Love
See you.
you.
Bye-bye.